Well, hello there, and welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily. And of course, as always, we get things going with the news. So we've got lots to get into on the show today. There's not just DC news, we've got news from Marvel, we've got news from all of Hollywood, new Oscar predictions, front runners. Speaking of which, of course, the news just broke before we, came on live about potentially two names that are in the running for the Clayface director over at DC Studios. So that was a report in Deadline. We're going to get into that later in the show. But before that, we will be talking about The Accountant 2. It dropped a new trailer. We were excited to see that. We're going to talk about that. We have to review Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man episodes 6 through 8. Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power has now been renewed for season 3. We'll get into that. Miles Teller had something to say about the new Fantastic Four movie trailer. Of course, he used to be Mr. Fantastic. So what does he have to say about that? We'll get into it. Also, Dave Bautista reached out to James Gunn on several occasions about the DCU. What's going on there? Does that mean that James Gunn is not interested, or are they trying to figure out like something that actually for them? We'll have to talk about that and so much more. To do that, let's hit that news intro and then we'll get things started, shall we?
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number 2.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
Robert
You're
Downey.
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne. I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see coins.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now.
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right. Well, here is me again, Dan, your host. Time to get into the news. And with me to do that, I've got John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Sorry, I was just watching Cobra Kai, so I'm in a little bit of a karate mood. So, I also watched Paddington 2 today because I'm getting ready to see it. The third one tomorrow. So Kung Fu Fighting Bears, that should be the sequel to Cocaine Bear, Kung Fu Bear. Anyway, yeah, let's get started. Bad movie idea.
Wow. We're just quickly saying hi to everybody in the chat. We've got Manos, you've got Ron. Ron was first in the chat, acknowledged. We've got Keith in the chat. All right, Keith, second first. We got Fiona in there, and as she's asking y'all to do, hit the like before the show starts. Well, it's too late for that, but if you did, we already got a few likes in. Thank you for doing that. Man of Steel Magnolias is here. Hello, Man of Steel Magnolias. A good smelling chat today, indeed, Fiona. We have Enterprising in the chat. Hello, Enterprising. He says, Heidi ho, hello, family, Amly. What? Okay.
Idaho, neighbor.
Idaho neighbor. There we go. All right. Well, you know what? We have to get into a ton of news today, John. Let's just dive into it straight away. So the first thing I wanted to do was a quick look at the Bafta Film Awards, which are taking place very, very soon. And they're really the biggest awards that are left now on our road to the Oscars. So they just announced Zoe Saldana, Selena Gomez, Jesse Eisenberg, Ray Fiennes, and Joe Alwyn as some of the many presenters at this year's awards. So you, of course, have a few missing from the list. Adam Scott won't be there. Anna Kendrick, Lupita Nyong'o. Actually, no, hold on. Sorry, I meant to say they are going to be there. They're also confirmed. But the one name that is missing is Carla Sofia Gasson for obvious reasons at this point. She's really not taking part in the Oscar campaign or just the awards campaign in general for the movie anymore. So, John, are you surprised to see these names? And do you feel like any of them will walk away with awards for themselves? Because obviously Zoe Saldana and Selena Gomez and Ray Fiennes are all nominated as well at this year's awards.
Yeah, I think I think any of them could. I've heard great things about specifically their performances in each film. I mean, the only one I can confirm is Ray Fiennes from Conclave, which was an excellent performance. I've heard Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin did a great job in A Real Pain, and I've mainly heard Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez, lesser Selena Gomez. I know some people said that she was robbed of an Oscar. Some people say no, it was not that great of a performance. So, did I know what you're going to say? What?
I don't know. By the
I
way,
have no idea what you're talking about.
Ron is going to see Captain America tomorrow. Good luck, Ron. I think I might check it out if I have some time. So yeah. In Manos time, you missed the show last time, but you're here today. And hello and honka honka to Caleb. So we've got the whole fam in the chat. But I mean, yeah, I mean, John, look, I'm excited to see what the BAFTAs, will do in terms of like who is going to win the awards, who's going to be stumped, because it is the last big stop before the Oscars, and so it's going to give us a better idea of where the momentum is essentially with the awards, and who's gonna be walking away with some awards in the UK before they come over stateside and go into that theater in LA for the Oscars. So hopefully this will be the last chance that we'll have. I think so far Demi Moore is in the lead for Best Actress. They're saying Adrian Brody is in the lead for Best Actor. So we've gotten a few previews. The Best Supporting Actor, Zoe Saldana is in the lead, but Fernanda Torres might sneak up on Demi Moore. It's possible. Honora is currently leading the race for Best Picture after winning at the DGA and the PGA Awards. So there's a lot, and then the SAG Awards are also coming up soon. So that's going to be another one. Usually the SAG Awards are a good indicator of, who will take home the big acting categories, because of course the SAG Awards are voted on by the actors who also vote on the acting categories at the Oscars. So a lot to get into there, but the BAFTAs are coming up. We'll talk about them once they take place. But in the meantime, John, we have to move on to talking about Halo. Now, Halo is a TV show that ran for 2 seasons over on Paramount Plus, and then it was, to me, seemingly abruptly canceled right when it was getting really, really good. Now,
was it though?
I enjoyed it. Okay, I enjoyed it, and a lot of the fans, wanted to come back. Now, here's the thing. This is the piece of news here that is new, because obviously the show got canceled a while ago, and they said that they were going to try to shop the series around and see if somebody else was going to pick it up. But then,
and of course, Netflix being
so
a shit house.
Now Netflix, who's known for picking up shows and maybe giving them like one last hurrah, they've done that with a lot, like Designated Survivor, Manifest. They've usually done it with a lot of like network television series. I don't know if they're really, I mean, obviously Cobra Kai moved over there after YouTube Red was no longer a thing. So you have, examples there. So Netflix has now recently picked up, Halo. So now here's the thing. Let me kind of, I'm going to qualify this whole situation with the little details before we get into what's the potential for maybe more Halo. They picked up the series. It's going to be available in the UK. I don't know if it's going to be available in the US yet, but before it was a Paramount exclusive. It was produced by, I believe, Showtime, but it was for Paramount, or actually MTV Studios for Paramount Plus. So now you can also see it on, it's still on Paramount Plus, but you can also see it on Netflix. It's similar to like how Barbie is also on Netflix right now, but you can still watch it on Max. So that being said, Netflix has not so far made any announcements about reviving the show for a third season, but people are speculating that now that Netflix has entered the picture, do you think maybe a fan campaign might convince them to pick it up for another season? Do you think that would happen? Do you think there's even, enough support out there for the show to make that happen?
I hope not. I mean, I hope that I wanted this thing to stay dead and buried. I tried to watch it and I just couldn't get, like, once they were like, oh, they took off Master Chief's helmet, boom, automatic. And then like Pablo Schreiber, however you fucking pronounce his name, he would like double down on it, and then like I just heard nothing but fucking absolutely terrible things. And then like the showrunners are like, yeah, we're not like gonna follow the games or any of the extended media. We're just gonna do our own. I hate it. When you hear that, the show is gonna be dog shit, because it's like, if you don't want to make a show that is based on an IP, here's an idea: make something original. I know that's very hard to do in this day and age because IPs sell, but like either adapt the source material or use it in some capacity or just don't do it at all. It that's all it is. Like I'm just sick of like the people who are doing the fucking Harry Potter show. It's like, "Oh, we're not going to like follow the books closely. We're just going to it's going to be a general vibe." It's like hippie shit. It's like thought hippies died in the 60s. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Look, I think right now there is no guarantee Netflix has any intentions to invest more money into the show other than just picking it up because it's a library IP based title that they acquired, much like they have been. I mean, of late, it's like all these studios have kind of gone past the point of where like what, we're gonna hoard all of our IP so you can come and watch it on our streaming network. Now they're open to licensing it out again. So Netflix, of course, has a lot of money to throw around, probably more than most streaming services. So they've started to bring a lot of these other big IP things, like all the HBO stuff that you're now seeing on Netflix. This is similar in nature to that, and this is part of what Paramount announced they were going to be doing last year. Anyway, so I just don't see at this point in time there being a need for Netflix to kind of bring this show back because the viewership wasn't all that terribly high. But in the past, when they have renewed a show, for a season or two after it was canceled elsewhere, it's usually been because there's a rabid fan base where they probably saw that there's a lot of people who would sign up for Netflix who weren't already Netflix customers. So if that's really what the kind of data that they see from this show, then maybe they will make that move. But outside of that, I do not see this translating into another season for Halo, even though I liked the show. I really did. I mean, I hope that maybe they can come up with a new adaptation, maybe they do a different take, but I have a feeling that's going to take a long time for them to kind of, move beyond this one, let the dust settle on this Halo. But, Liv Schreiber or Pablo Schreiber rather, he did a fantastic job playing Master Chief. And then I forget the names of the other actors, but like the other cast members were also just great. I think Natasha McElhone was one of the ones in there. And I'm trying to remember. I can't remember any of the names of the other, leads. But the show was intriguing, especially the season 1 finale. The way it just became like almost like you're playing Halo for that whole fight sequence. I enjoyed it. So, well, if it does get another season, I'll be watching. But there's no guarantee of that happening right now. But you know what? We'll be getting another sequel after the one that is now in movie theaters near you is Paddington. Because Paddington Peru, we've got some major news from the director of the movie, who was recently saying, and this is actually, I correct myself, it was not the director of the movie, it was the studio Canal CEO, Anna Marsh. Anna Marsh, of course, is the CEO of the studio that is behind these movies. She was asked about, hey, what's the future of this character in both, film and television? And so she mentioned that there will be a 4th film. We're thinking about the next movies, and we're working on a new TV series as well as the stage show musical with Sonia Friedman and Eliza Lumley. So get this. Not only are they talking about more movies, but they're also working on a new TV series. I mean, John, are you surprised considering how critically acclaimed and just beloved Paddington has been so far?
No, I mean, like, they're just nice, wholesome movies, and we needed a wholesome movie. These were like the Superman movies before we're officially getting one, because it's just like like, I know it might seem silly to say that, but like Paddington, now having watched the movies, well, I knew of the character, like I watched it
Right.
when I was a kid. But like these movies help accentuate, like, it is kind of weirdly what I like to call a Superman story. I know that's like, oh, the power. No, no, no. I mean, like, what I call a Superman story is a morally, like, seemingly perfect character that improves the lives of everyone around them by just being a good person. And that's what I think. And you can fit any kind of like story into that. And that's what Paddington is. Like, he's just, and Paddington 2 accentuated that very much so, because it was really like I mean, they kind of spell it out for you, but it was just like he just makes everything better by just like being around him. And I really think that that's like wonderful. And I think we need that, all of us, because when the lights begin to anyway, I think that's just like a really great story. And while we're officially getting that in a couple months, and that's great, I think Paddington 2 is like, it's kind of like that that meme made from the Predator movie where it's like the two of them, like the handshake, the most badass handshake of all time, and it's just Paddington, Superman, just like being wholesome boys that improve everything around you. So it's like, yeah, I think that works. Yeah, Ted Lasso's another thing. Dog Man is another one where it's it's that's a silly kids movie showcasing like breaking the cycle of bad parenting, actually. And it kind of, but they got him. What do you mean they got him? They got him. It was I really missed that guy. He stood behind me in English class. What do you mean they got him? What are you talking about? That's another thing I need to watch. I need to watch Ted before season 2 comes out. So fucking great stuff.
Yeah, but Antonio in the chat right now, by the way, we've also got Ron saying I need to see the first one. Well, you need to see the first 2, Ron. This is the third one, Paddington in Peru. And Steven, Paddington is already a hit franchise, my friend. But Enterprising was like, it could be like a fun Ted-like TV series on Peacock. Possibly, we'll see. But Paddington in Peru is out now, so go check it out. And of course, we know now that they're not only working on more Paddington movies, but they're also working in a TV show. So plenty of Paddington to come in our futures.
Which is weird because they made one already. Like they made one that was in the continuity of the movie, so I guess they're making another one. Which fine, more Paddington content. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to, we'll have to find out as it comes our way. Of course, Paddington Peru in theaters now. Speaking of movies that are coming to a theater near you soon, The Accountant 2 has just dropped its first full trailer with Ben Affleck and John Bernthal. They're back together, the brothers as we know them now, and they're going to be on the case on a new murder mystery. You saw the trailer, John. What did you think about it? I mean, I enjoyed it. I personally cannot wait. I feel like I've been waiting for this movie for way too long.
Almost a decade.
Yeah, like quite frankly.
So. Or more than a decade. Hang on. When did The Accountant come out?
I feel like
2016. I don't know why I keep thinking it was 2014.
I kept thinking the same thing.
I keep getting it because it was kind of similar to Captain America Winter Soldier a little bit, where it was like that very gritty espionage vibe. And that's like the similar vibe I got with The Accountant. But no, it came out in 2016. But yeah, it was still like, damn, great movie, underrated movie. Gavin O'Connor's director, Ben Affleck. I will say he is a better director than actor, but I think under good direction, he can do a really good job. John Bernthal, I mean, he's just essentially playing a funnier version of Punisher, which is like, that's fine with me. I'm not complaining. And then I don't know who the female lead is. I've seen her before, but
it's Cynthia Adai Robinson. She had a show. Okay. I think no. She was in Shooter, I think, the one on USA Network, and then she was in one of the Stars TV shows that was like somebody in the chat let us know. I mean, she's been in a bunch of things. Yeah, but I recognize her from a couple of other things. But obviously she's so in the trailer she's a treasury agent. She hires these guys to come on. Actually, she hires more Ben Affleck's character, and then she, later on, John Byrne, he brings his brother into the fold as well, and obviously, these guys kind of operate outside of the law, and she's like, you can't do certain things, you can't torture people. Like, I'm working for the federal agency, so. It's going to be interesting. Enterprising saying The Accountant 2 looks fun. I mean, look, to me, that's exactly what the trailer needed to do. It needed to tell us that this movie is going to stick to what the first movie did so well, and then just build on top of that. Antonio saying, show a picture of a Dan, then maybe I'll remember because I never heard of her before. Oh, okay, Cynthia Adai Robinson. I will see if I can find her photo. I mean, she's in that photo in the article you guys are seeing. She's like on the left of the image. So By the way, we have James in the chat. Hello, James. Saying, what up, everybody? I can't wait for The Accountant 2. Exactly.
She was
I cannot
Amanda
wait for it
Waller in
either.
Arrow. That's where I fucking remember
she
her
was
from.
also in the Arrowverse. Exactly.
Yeah, playing skinny Amanda Waller. Hate to see it, but you know, there's
Come
a
on,
reason
man.
she's called The Wall, because she's fucking fat and huge. Like, come on, guys.
Dude, seriously. The Manos Time saying found the first one all right. The trailer looks good though. By the way, Viola Davis has a new movie called.
Speaking of Amanda Waller.
Speaking of Amanda, she's in a new movie called I forget that it's on Prime Video. It's coming out in April. It's just like an action thriller where basically the poster has her like wearing a red dress with a gun in her hand, like a rifle. I'm like, okay, so she's doing her own John Wick movie. That was interesting. Somebody tell me what the name of that movie is. It's like a one-word title that I'm totally forgetting. Something 20. Yes, G20. G20. It's like the G20 summit. Like it's like a thing. Exactly, Manos. Thank you, Manos. That looks fun, by the way. I haven't seen the trailer for that movie, but yeah. So it also has Anthony Starr in that movie. I think we'll get into that when the movie is closer to releasing. But The Accountant 2, it's coming out, I think, also in April, right, John? Is let me see what the release date is. It's going to South by Southwest on March 8th. That's where it's going to premiere. And then if you go further down in the article.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Just been sitting down for a while, so everything has to crack. Everything has to crack.
It's all good. April 25th
for all you
is when
young
this movie comes out.
That's called getting old. And I'm not even that old. I'm also just fat, so I don't take care of my body either.
Yeah. Well, you know what's not cracking is the streak that Christopher Nolan is on, casting and continuing to bring on more people into the Odyssey. This just broke right as we were live. So Rafi Gavron and Shiloh Fernandez have now joined Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey ensemble. Shiloh, I apologize. Shiloh Fernandez. So. I believe I've seen him somewhere before, but I don't know so much about Rafi.
I don't know who the guy on the left is, but the guy Shiloh Fernandez sounds familiar. But I'm still gonna bring out the Jimon Honsu for this. Who? Sorry, I'm not really that familiar with them.
But you know what? They're probably the least recognizable names that have joined the cast so far. But nonetheless, you know. The cast is already stacked.
He was in the Evil Dead remake. No wonder I don't give a shit. Okay. Cool.
I mean, because they're now going to be joining Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, Charlize Theron, Benny Safdie, John Bernthal, and John Leguizamo. That's crazy. They literally have everyone in this movie. And now they also have Rafi and Shiloh. So there we go. Now, moving on to another piece of news. This comes from the world of Marvel, John. We have new posters for Daredevil Born Again. The Devil's Work is Never Done. These are the two character posters for the show that comes out on March 4th, of course, for Daredevil on the left and Wilson Fisk on the right. Your thoughts, your reactions to these posters? They look like graffiti on a wall in New York City. I think that's the idea behind the design.
The point. Yes. They look all right. I think they're kind of trying too hard. Kind of remind me of the Acolyte poster, which depends on who you are, might be a good thing or a bad thing, but you know, I can see what they're doing. It just looks a bit much.
I mean, I appreciate.
Although we are going to be getting into some Daredevil talk later on when we talk about a certain somebody fighting him this past week.
We will be. We will be. You know what? In fact, let's get into it right now, John, because I need your review. I need your thoughts on friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man episodes 6, 7, and 8. What did you think about those episodes? They just dropped earlier today, and you went through all of them back to back. So give us your thoughts on your friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
That Daredevil fight in episode 6. That's the best. That's the best thing to come out of the show. Like straight up, not only I think it was well animated, I thought it was fun. But like they used the Daredevil theme, which would like I love that. I will say, if they better fucking bring back that Daredevil theme, because that was like fucking. You don't even do anything to it. Just like copy and paste the Netflix intro with the wax and the bleeding and all that, and just paste it on Daredevil Born Again, and just include like a just insert a fucking, title. Oh, Daredevil Born Again. Because that's all you need to do. Because that's like Kino right there. It was like the most perfect theme song ever. I will say the Luke Cage one was pretty good. Iron Fist one was pretty good. Jessica Jones, they were all pretty good. I would say out of all of them, I would say second is Luke Cage, third is Iron Fist, fourth is Jessica Jones, but they were all good. But like Daredevil, that was just sometimes I went back like afterwards to look at that intro. I'm like, oh god, this is cinema. Anyway, so we get some. Yes, we do get an Iron Man cameo, but we also get with a more classic look, and we also get a Thunderbolt Ross who looks not like Harrison Ford,
William Hurt.
not like William Hurt. He looks more like Sam Elliott, who was
Really?
Thunderbolt Ross in the Eric Bana 2003 Hulk. I don't know if that was a choice. I feel like there's a lot of influence in this series from like pre-MCU Marvel movies, because we get the Daredevil thing, which that is MCU, but like it kind of had more of a vibe for like the Ben Affleck one, and then like Thunderbolt Ross looks more like Sam Elliott in Hulk, and then we're getting a lot of references to like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So like that's like I'm getting a lot of that. But so with Duel with the Devil, we get a Daredevil fight, which was excellent, and then we get a little bit of stuff with like Norman Osborn and Harry, and we get some like side stuff with Nico and her and Peter having their like grievances with one another, and then like Peter having a friendship with Harry, and Norman being like dead set on like trying to catch Doc Ock, that he kind of almost gets Peter killed, and then we see Matt Gargan in the proper Scorpion attire, and it looks great. I like how they did the tail. Like what they did is they like made it one solid piece, and then it extends, and then it like kind of breaks apart, and it's like you could see like the kind of insides. Like it's very cool how they do it. I think Hugh Dancy as Doc Ock, he doesn't have a ton to do here, but I think he still was really great. We get a Chameleon cameo, one of the characters from the whole Rhino / Unicorn episode. We get Lonnie's further descent into the 1/10th or 100th whatever the hell it's called, the gang, and you see more of that turn. It's like just so sad to watch that, but it's like that's how it kind of is with like that environment. They make you think that you're like a part of something bigger when it's really they're just manipulating you and corrupting you, and it's sad to see. We are in the cliffhanger of episode 8, we're promised the more classic suit rather than the more future Foundation suit that was in these past few episodes. We see Nico finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, so that's like a whole big thing. And like towards the end of like episode 8, he's like Peter's not in a great place because he's like losing all the people around him. There's stuff with like Pearl and Lonnie. They like break up and they go their separate ways, and it's just like a sad down. This is kind of like the Spider-Man part of like the him like dealing with a lot of shit that like we feel like Tom Holland's Spider-Man didn't deal with. Like he's dealing with like the heartbreak, the responsibilities of being a hero, which they kind of twist that line a little bit. There's a lot of references like that, like when Norman is telling him with great power comes great respect, so you have to earn your respect. So instead of responsibility, he's like trying to garner respect, and so there's like that aspect. And then there was 2 funny moments where it was like they were trying to find out what power source that Doc Ock used, and they used like he was like, oh, what about this, what about this, what about vibranium, what about this, what about this, what about this, and It was really funny because then they're like, and then Peter's like, solar? And then Norman Osborn laughs and he's like, like Doc Ock can use the power of the sun in the palm of his hands. And I'm like, hey,
Lol.
I see what you did there. And then at the end of episode 8, you have Harry Osborn saying to Peter, go get him, Tiger. I'm like, are they gonna fuck now? Okay, interesting. Way to go. But so I thought that was like we get little references like that. But I thought these were another like group of good episodes. Like I didn't hate like the Lonnie stuff. It's just now it's just sad to see because you don't want to see him go through this. You want to see him like play football, get his life together, all that. You don't want to see him actually become Tombstone, but I feel like at the end of I have a strong feeling that at the end of this season we're gonna get Big Don is probably gonna die in the Scorpion fight, like the fight with the Scorpions or Matt Gargan or whatever, and like he's gonna become the leader of the gang, and then he's like, I'm gonna be known as Tombstone, like my name. That's like how I'm, doing it. So that's really cool. Like cool, like, oh, we're getting Tombstone. Not cool for Lonnie's character because that's sad to see, but it's like, okay, we're getting Tombstone now. So that I have a strong feeling they're gonna go there. We're getting, some stuff with Nico, which isn't, I will say Nico definitely dialed back. She was kind of getting close with Harry, so that was good. I don't know if they're gonna do a love triangle thing, but we did get a peek at her powers because she's like, oh, I do tarot cards, and then because she's a witch in the comics, like that's her power. She's kind of like a Raven-esque character. So there's that. And then so we got all these things. It's just hard to discern which episode is which because I watch all of them at once.
Yeah, they kind of blend together, yeah.
And they all kind of blend together. So I'm kind of not being like specific, but I believe the first episode was like focusing on like the Harry, Norman, Peter relationship with some Nico stuff in the background and Lonnie stuff, and then Scorpion Rising heavier on Lonnie and like that side. And like Daredevil, the reason Daredevil comes in is because he was hired by Doc Ock allegedly, and he tells Spider-Man like Norman Osborn's hiding something, and we get more nefarious Norman Osborn stuff, and we see the Goblin glider, so that's definitely, you even hear the laugh in the background. He doesn't like you don't see him as Green Goblin, you just see the glider. Like Spider-Man almost dies fighting Scorpion, but like the glider picks him up and carries him back to Oscorp. But like you can even hear like the laugh because they're like teasing that. So yeah, there's a lot of great stuff that happens. I liked like all the developments. I thought that these were probably the strongest of the group of episodes. Like the first 2 little clunky, next 3 were good. I think these, and I'm not just saying that because of Daredevil and I'm a Daredevil stan, but like I think these 3 are the best. Like we got the most development in terms of story and characters that I think was done very well. Yeah. Like he's definitely scary.
By the way, Manos Time has an interesting take. He's suggesting that can we agree that these episodes are better than Tom Holland's Spider-Man run so far? I mean, what do you think, John? Do you think it is better than what we got from Tom Holland?
Yeah, because it was good from the beginning, unlike Homecoming and Far From Home, which both sucked. So, like his Spider-Man run only got good in the 3rd movie, and even then, like half of that movie was kind of cringy. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, so far the show has been doing great with the audiences. I know it's probably not got the biggest audience for it because it's an animated show on a streaming service, but the critic score is fantastic, and overall it seems like more people like it than not. So if you're interested, you can now see basically all the way up to episode 8. And then episodes 9 and 10, the season finale drops next week. And we already know the show's been renewed for 2 more seasons. So there's so much more to come beyond just, what we have gone so far. So if you want to get invested in it, you can do so knowing the show's not going to go anywhere. It's got 2 more seasons after this. So definitely a recommend, I think, right, John, from your end?
Oh yeah,
People who are
definitely. I
interested?
think like I know there are still some people that are like like Chris is kind of like but I would say I would recommend it. I don't get the 60. Honestly, I agree more with the critics on this. I think it's in between. Like I would
Right.
give it like a firm like 8 out of 10. Like it's not perfect, but like I'd fucking sure as hell watch it over Far From Home or Homecoming, which I don't like. I will say the one good thing about Far From Home is Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. That's great. Love to see it. So I can't like totally hate that movie as much as everyone else does because Jake Gyllenhaal is so good. Get this fucking suit off. Yeah, I know he doesn't say fuck it. He's like, get this suit off. And like, I just love it. Like, just so ridiculous. But like, there's still so much dumb shit in that. Oh, he called my invention barf. Time to be a villain now, I guess.
Um,
But you know, I still I think No Way Home is
yeah.
a good movie. I don't think it's great, but it was nice to see. And I liked how they used like the older Spider-Man for his development. Like it wasn't just nostalgia. I mean, it was nostalgia bait, yes, but it like they actually used it properly. Um, but I'd give it like a solid 8 out of 10. Like
Yeah.
this is like the first time in a while where I've genuinely loved Marvel content. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
actually like really enjoying it. So congrats. And because like everything went against this, so I was like, um, so yeah,
Yeah. No,
recommend.
I mean, look,
Please watch.
it's a great show so far. It's gonna be around for a while. I like how there's a lot of parallels to MCU history, except things are happening only slightly differently because it is a parallel universe, and it's
Mhm.
not the same timeline as the what do they call it, the sacred timeline of the MCU, like 616. So, yeah, we will be here talking about it next week. Let us know what you guys think about it so far. Of course, episodes 9 and 10 drop next week, basically the finale of the season. So John will be here to review it, and we want to
Mhm.
hear your thoughts. Of course, if you're not watching live, then do let us know down in the comments below what you thought about, what you are, thinking about so far. For your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, 8 episodes in out of 10. But in the meantime, John, we have to move on. Let's get on to the last topic in the news section before we go into the quick hits. We have quite a few quick hits today, but YouTube viewing on TV has now surpassed the what it does on mobile platforms and desktops in the US, meaning that more people are now watching YouTube on televisions than they are on their mobile devices or even their desktop or laptop computers. And the CEO of YouTube, Neil Mohan, said that the platform's creators are now becoming the startups of Hollywood. Your thoughts on this story? Are you surprised to see it? Do you think this was inevitable? And how do you think this changes things moving forward in terms of the streaming game? YouTube is there, like it's different than pretty much any other
I
streaming service in
mean,
that it's accessible to everyone.
I don't agree with it like becoming the startups of Hollywood. Like, I think that's over exaggerating. I think he's
But to
just
be
saying
fair,
that.
there's a lot of big stars like Logan Paul, for example. I know that we don't like him in general. Most people don't, but like that's his personality. But I'm saying like people like and he's just one example of many. There's, for example, I watch Veritasium, right? I'm sure you might have heard of Veritasium, the YouTube channel. His videos have like corporate sponsors who literally would be spending millions of dollars on ad buys on television. His video on average does like 2 to 3 million views just within the first couple of days that it's released. Like that kind of viewership meets and nowadays beats what you get on most cable networks and even some broadcast television. So it's big. I mean, and the fact that it's so easily accessible, it's not behind a paywall. I mean, yeah, you may have to watch ads. I'm like, isn't it becoming the startups of Hollywood? I mean, like we have so many YouTubers out there who have made it to the point where now they practically are celebrities. um I mean, do you feel the same way, or do you just feel like that this is
I
still a
don't
very
know.
graduated scale where like the vast majority are not up there? It's obviously a few
Yeah,
exceptions to
it's
the
because
rule.
it's just, I mean, I guess like kind of in a way, it's just like hard for me to like, oh, YouTube is still kind of this silly thing that you just kind of post whatever on. But like, I guess it is kind of in a way. You know what? The more I think about it, yeah, I kind of agree. Because you think about it like this: you have the 1%,
Right.
got your like Logan Paul's, Ryan's World, all that fucked up bullshit. You have like all those assholes that get Mr. Beast, Like, you get those assholes that rake in millions of dollars from this platform, and they get all the views, all the sponsorships, all the money, all the attention. And then you have the 99% that are barely scraping by or don't really take it as seriously and have other jobs, much like actors. Like, a character actor isn't getting a money deal like Brad Pitt or Timothy Chalamet, if we're going with a newer name. So there is that. And then, YouTube treats its people like complete shit, just like Hollywood. And they don't get paid that well, just like Hollywood. So it's like, honestly, yeah, now I can kind of see it. And YouTube is morally corrupt, just like Hollywood. And it's bows down to the corporations, just like Hollywood. So, I think you're right. I think, I think this man is right.
I think on the positive side, I personally, like, you look at the landscape of streaming, I think YouTube has a more, relatively speaking, more democratized platform where we can really, go from being like a very small channel to being a bigger channel, and like keep going up to the point where you can become one of those, YouTube celebrities. It's that pathway is just not as accessible because there's a lot more gatekeepers, in between you and having that accessibility on any other streaming platform. I think Amazon Prime came the closest, but even they are no longer quite doing that, where they used to have this function where you can put your movie up there, and if it got enough views, they will keep it up. But then, if it didn't, they would take it down. I don't know if they even allow that anymore. So, like, self-publishing, I think YouTube as a platform is unique in that sense. And obviously it's popular because a lot of people don't have to pay for it. I mean, yes, you can pay for the premium version of YouTube and get no ads, but for most people, it's like, you either can just watch YouTube and, you can consume content that's like 10-15 minutes and you can get through 4 or 5 things in an hour, or you can go try to search for something on Netflix, but you're paying like $20 for Netflix. So I think the cost difference is obviously there, so that's definitely the cost the benefit proposition there is like, hey, you could just cut the cord with cable and give up on all your streaming services and just do YouTube, and there's enough content on YouTube, enough variety of different genres, and even like now like Warner Brothers and stuff, they've been dropping more and more movies you can watch free with ads, kind of like Tubi and Pluto, that it's got enough that you can just live off YouTube and let that be your entertainment, So obviously you guys are watching us on YouTube. If you're watching us on X or Twitch or Facebook, but that's great too. But yeah, I mean, YouTube, look, yes, it's not easy. It never is. But I'm just saying it could be worse. But I mean, YouTube is now, of course, seen on TV screens more so than mobile devices and desktop computers or even laptops, which to me says that, hey, is becoming more and more, akin to a streaming service like a Netflix or a Max or Disney Plus than it used to be in the past, where it was just a video sharing app. So that's I mean, to me, that's fantastic because obviously we're on YouTube, so that can only bode well for us. But John, now it's time to move on to the quick hits. So why don't you hit that bossa nova elevator music, and we shall dive in to what is a barrage of quick hits, shall we?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's start things off with Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power has now been renewed for season 3 at Prime Video. Thoughts?
Gross.
I'm looking forward to it because I thought season 1 was not that good, but season 2 got better, so hopefully season 3 will be even better. But let's keep the ball rolling here. The next story we have is HBO. They have said that they expect The Last of Us to last around 4 seasons. Are you surprised that they're going to wrap this all up in 4 seasons, or did you think it was going to go any longer than that?
I thought it was going to go shorter. I thought, like, at the least it was going to be 2 seasons because there's 2 games. Then they were like, oh, we're going to split it into season 2 and season 3. If they're splitting the second game into 3 seasons, God help us all. That's all I'm going to say.
Maybe they'll go beyond where the games went. That's could be that direction too. Ron saying, by the way, most of the time I use TV for YouTube. In fact, many times I've seen you guys on TV. Thank you. I hope you guys are watching us on a TV. Fiona's like, better start exporting my videos out at 4K. Well, there's a lot of 4K content on YouTube already, but yeah, more and more creators are doing that. Moving on to the next story. Dungeons and Dragons is now going to be getting a live-action television series called The Forgotten Realms, and it's in the works at Netflix from Sean Levy, who of course recently directed Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as Drew Carvalho and Hasbro, of course, who owns the franchise. John, are you interested in this live-action Dungeons and Dragons TV series?
Could be good. Probably going to be cheap and crappy, but like, as long as it's better than the movie, then I'll be okay with that.
Fair enough. Well, the next story that we have to talk about, by the way, I'm interested in it. We'll see how good it is when it comes out. But Legally Blonde is getting a prequel, and now they have cast Lexi Mindtree as Elle Woods. Excited?
Nope, don't care.
Cool. All right. Well, then the next story on deck is Jeff Daniels is set to star in Dilettante, a New York media drama that is in the works at Apple, from Dana Brown and the Julia creator, and of course, Berlanti Productions, the creators of the Arrowverse. Are you excited for this show? I mean, Greg, Jeff Daniels, most things he does are great. So I'm personally interested.
Good cast, interesting story. Berlanti, gross.
Those Berlanti Productions, I don't know, man. Mixed track record. Scott Free, which is Ridley Scott's production company, is developing a thriller series, Highwire, based on the Candace Fox novel for Apple TV+. So another Apple project. This is coming from Ridley Scott's production company. Are you interested in this? Have you read the book before?
Nope. And not really interested.
Apparently, this is a high-octane journey through the Australian outback. So
okay, I'll watch Mad Max Fury Road again. Cool.
Cool. All right, moving on to the next story. Now, this, of course, has been around for, I believe, a day or two, but I wanted to touch upon it today. Millie Bobby Brown recently was saying that her salary contracts should have been protected so they're not on the record, because reports came out that she was paid $10 million for the movie Enola Holmes, and of course, it was a leak, but she's just saying, hey, man, this better be protected. This shouldn't be public information, because it caused a backlash, as most of the times, something like that does. Like, how could you pay one person this much money to do this movie? Especially because, Enola Holmes is not exactly a big blockbuster franchise. But, obviously, Millie Bobby Brown is a big part of Netflix's, whole strategy for the franchises and the IP they're setting up. She's part of one of their biggest ones in Stranger Things. So are you surprised that this is what she's asking for? And what do you even think about the idea that this information should be protected? Like, it shouldn't even be on the record.
Like, if it's in her contract and if somebody leaked it, that's just not cool. Like, she has grounds to sue if it was against contract. If it wasn't in the contract, and then obviously have that right. But like, if it's in her contract, that's just, and she chose that, then she has all grounds to sue. And I hope she wins, because that's fucked up. Like, there's a reason it's in her contract. She wants it to be private, so keep it as is. Like, that's just a dick move. So I agree with her.
It was leaked information, so hopefully this won't be something that we have to worry about too often. I don't think most actors get their salaries revealed, but obviously they're sensitive. It's kind of like, you work a job. Would you tell everybody in the world what you earn from the job that you work? Like, it's kind of that kind of thing for them, for actors. I know they're public figures, but nobody really wants to have that kind of information out in the world. So I get it. I understand her concerns. Moving on. Hitch director says that Will Smith apparently tried to back out 3 days before they started shooting the original movie, and is now developing a sequel without him. I've never heard from him after 2005. Does it just sound like, somebody who's a bit disgruntled, or do you think he has a legitimate gripe here? Because Andy Tennant, it's been 20 years now since the movie came out.
I read this article before you sent it to me, and it sounded like there was a bit of ego going on from Will Smith's part, because it sounds like the director wanted to make his movie, but then Will Smith wanted to make his own version of the movie, and then there was a lot of clashing, and there was from the way it sounds, there was some temper tantruming on set a little bit. prior to set. Obviously, you've threatened to leave, and then and it's so funny because Will Smith got this guy. Like, he specifically asked to work with this guy, and then you just trample all over what he wants to do. And then you never talk to him again and make a sequel without him. Like, what the fuck? That's not cool. Like, that's kind of a dickheaded move. But this is coming from the guy who fucking protects the wife who fucking cheated on him by slapping somebody on stage at the Oscars. Okay.
Fiona's like, I can't keep up. These quick-hits are so quick. Well, we took a bit of a pause to, weigh in on Will Smith's ego, but moving on to the next story, shall we? Of course, the world of Hollywood is full of, fantastic characters, and Steve Coogan is one of those, an amazing actor in his own right, and now you've got his homage to Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, and the trailer came out recently, and this is basically, to give you an idea, this is from the UK National Theatre Live. So they basically shot one of the live performances of the play, and now they're going to be, releasing it worldwide in theaters. John, are you excited about this? Because Dr. Strangelove, for a lot of us, today, most people might not have even heard of the movie, but it's still to this day, I think if you know who Stanley Kubrick was, if you know his, filmography, then it's one of his best movies to date, and, probably one of the iconic movies that, I don't know if it's on the AFI Top 100, but it's definitely, something that holds a lot of weight, especially for a lot of filmmakers and in their portfolios. What do you think?
I think this could be interesting. If it's like a theater production and Steve Coogan wants to do something with it, then that's cool. And even if it sucks, we still have the original movie. So there's that.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. Moving on to the next story that we have got here. A new trailer drop for the Daisy Edgar Jones and Jacob Elordi and Will Poulter starring On Swift Horses. Are you interested in this movie? Of course, 3 up-and-coming actors, Sony Pictures classics. What are your thoughts on this trailer?
Could be interesting.
I saw this. Obviously the amount of talent on screen is interesting. It looks like a love triangle.
Someone says Challengers in a different font. I like that.
I know. I'm like, after Challengers, what to me was a bit of a disappointment. I'm excited to see where this goes, because I just love all 3 of these actors. Like, they've all been part of, I don't know, actually Daisy Edgar Jones isn't part of the comic book franchise yet. I do know Jacob Elordi obviously was considered for Superman. He was one of the finalists, and Will Poulter was, of course, in the last Guardians movie. So, 3 actors who are up and coming, and hopefully this will be a good movie. It played at TIFF, so good luck to that one. But Oscar nominee Flo has now passed $20 million at the global box office in indie animated movie milestone. Isn't that insane though? I mean, this is an indie animated movie that's made 20 million at the worldwide box office. You know how much money that is? That is 1 million more than Better Man did in its worldwide release.
Yeah, which is saying something, and I've heard great things about it. So good for Flo. So I'll try to watch it.
I'm pretty sure the budget for this was like 1% of what they spent on Better Man. So sorry, Robbie Williams. It looks like more people want to see Flo, the animated cat.
Yeah, because it's a cute cat. Or what would I rather see? Cute cat or creepy monkey that is playing a pop star that nobody outside of Commonwealth countries have ever heard of?
Yep.
So, except for Liz, who's apparently the biggest Robbie Williams fan ever. So,
apparently, figure drawing prefers high figure drawing. Jacob Elordi over David Cornsweet as Superman. I mean, hey, maybe in the alternate timeline we could get that, but certainly not in the one we're living in, because David Cornsweet is our Superman. And of course, the Berlin Film Festival has now kicked off, and so a few more deals are being made. So Ethan Hawke and Russell Crowe have now joined the period epic The Wait. Padraig McKinley is set to direct this historical drama. It's set in 1930s Oregon, and then WME International is now pitching the project to potential buyers in Berlin. So they're essentially packaging this thing together. They've attached 2 stars. You've got a director, and now they're trying to see, who might bite this package and maybe, give it an official green light. So it's not quite done yet, but they've packaged it together. They've got all the big pieces. What are your thoughts? Do you think this is a potentially combustible combination that could, generate an Oscar-worthy movie, or would you rather just skip it and not maybe see it at home instead?
I don't know. It kind of brings Killers of the Flower Moon vibes, like 1930s, like Oregon. I know that's like that was 1920s Oklahoma, but yeah, maybe it could be interesting. I like the actors involved, so you know.
There's a whole lot of fighting over Robbie Williams going on in the chat. We're gonna stay away from that because we had to talk about Kristen Wiig and Bill Murray. They have now joined forces to take part in the new comedy movie Epiphany from Palm Springs director. So this looks interesting. This was confirmed.
Bro, how much shit is Bill Murray gonna fucking be in? Like, goddamn.
All of a sudden, everything, literally. Apparently, this is about an heiress and eccentric billionaire selling at European film markets. So, I'm guessing that she's the heiress and he's the eccentric billionaire, which, you know, very well cast. I'd watch it. I think both of these are extremely talented actors. Would you watch it?
Maybe.
Cool. Well, we'll. I'm sure when the trailer comes out, we'll talk about it. In the meantime, John, Rooster Teeth Lives co-founder Bernie Burns has now bought out the company assets from Warner Brothers Discovery, which really was like, we got nothing to do with this. We're just, you know, it's just sitting in the vault, you know, metaphorically speaking. So he went in there. He's like, I'm gonna buy this back, and I'm gonna bring Rooster Teeth back to life. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I never really watched Rooster Teeth, but I know a lot of people that did and were really upset with what happened with Warner Brothers essentially, you know, taking it over. But the fact that he got the money, bought it back, I think that's really cool. And hopefully Rooster Teeth can come back full force and, you know, really get, you know, back on track and become the company that everyone loves so much. Because I know of them, but I never watched any of their stuff. But I know Ruby was under them and all that shit. So hopefully that they can come in and make some great stuff again, and hopefully people are happy with that. So I know a lot of people are like super stoked for this. So
Fleet Easy is like, what's Rooster Teeth? WB sell more assets? No scene just putting stuff on a shelf. I mean, look, Rooster Teeth wasn't getting any usage at Warner Brothers, so I'm glad it's like, you know, the original owner has gone back and says, you know what, I'll do something with it. Why don't you sell it back to me? I'm all for it. I think this can only be a good thing overall. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with, what new content they have in mind as they do a whole new reboot of Rooster. I don't know what the plans are exactly, but I'm guessing, you know, bringing it back as a content brand is essentially what they're hoping to do. That's probably why he spent all that
Enterprising
money.
Saying the Ruby X Justice League films were ass. So I mean, yeah, that's how it usually is with crossovers with other franchises. Either they're like the most like fun, fan heavy stuff you could ask for, or just complete fucking dog shit. Like, you're either gonna get Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or you're gonna get that. So it's like, you know.
Yeah. Well, let's keep the ball rolling here on the quick hit, shall we? So the next one that we got to talk about, we already talked about Rooster Teeth. Let's keep going to the next one. Streaming ratings. Of course, we talked about this recently, that the spy movie featuring Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz, which I actually had a really good time watching a few weeks ago. It's on Netflix. It's called Back in Action. You know, literally and figuratively, Cameron Diaz returning to Hollywood and Jamie Foxx coming back after, you know, his big injury that put him on the sidelines for a while. He's back to doing commercials for MGM resorts, or like the sports book, but also he's back doing the movies. That movie is still in the lead, the overall chart for streaming. So it dethroned Squid Game with the most minutes viewed in Nielsen's latest snapshot. So the latest round of ratings. Are you surprised that Back in Action is doing as well as it is on? Because I know it wasn't like the most well-received movie, but I feel like it's the perfect streaming film. So
I mean,
I'm
yeah, it's kind of, you know, it's got actors that people like. It's got, you know, like in a decent premise, and it's just one of those things. It's like, I know Cameron Diaz, I know Jamie Foxx, let's watch this. So yeah, and there isn't really a ton of good content on Netflix anyways, so there's that.
You know what, like, fair enough, because like you recognize this and you're like, these are two actors that you know, and it's a story that is, honestly, there's a lot of cliches in there, but they do it well enough that, like, I found it enjoyable. Like, it feels firmly like a movie that in 2025 belongs on Netflix, and I'm okay with that. Like, this is not one of those movies that needs to be, in a movie theater. Like, clearly, I think Netflix has found that niche where they're kind of like hit that
chat
nexus.
is
Like,
going insane.
over what? Are we still going over Robbie Williams?
Yeah, no, we're
going
going over the slap now.
The slap. Wow, we talked about the Hitch like 20,000 years ago, guys. I don't know why you're still talking about the slap, but we do have a video up of our.
Fiona's just like
reaction.
like stoking the flames of this. Although Enterprising got it back on track. She still looks good for her age. Glad Cameron came out of retirement. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I agree. Look, I think as far as Cameron Diaz goes and her acting ability, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not really sure about that. But I'm like, look, if you haven't, seen some of the movies that are on her resume, I mean, and Jamie Foxx himself too, he basically, isn't he an Oscar winner? So like, they've got acting chops. That's not the reason why you wouldn't like this movie. But you know what? Miles Teller also has acting chops. He saw the new Fantastic Four trailer, and recently he was on the red carpet promoting one of his new projects. I think it's called The Gorge, which is releasing on Apple TV Plus today. It's a new sci-fi movie where he's co-starring with Anya Taylor-Joy. I saw the trailer. Looks very interesting. I might want to check that out this weekend. So you don't even have to go to a movie theater. It's on Apple TV Plus. So he was on the red carpet for that movie, and he was asked about the Fantastic Four trailer. Of course, he was the last Mr. Fantastic, played the role, in what's known as Fan Four Stick. And this is what he had to say. He basically addressed the trailer saying, "I don't wish anybody to be part of a bomb. I just wish them the best. I saw the little trailer and I thought it looked fantastic." We see what you did there. I'm very excited for them. John, what are your thoughts on this?
Very regal, very classy. He's like, you know what I was a part of failed. Like, I think I would, but the first part of it, I'm like, that's a weird thing to say, but I bet like the fucking interviewer or somebody asked him like, oh, do you want it to like, fail because yours failed? And he's like, why the fuck would I want that? So he's like, you know what? He's like, I want the best for them, and hopefully theirs succeeded even though ours failed. Yeah. And I think that's a nice way to say it. Like, Miles Teller seems like a decent dude, so that's cool with me, and I hope he's gonna be in a lot of great projects soon. So I hope. I mean, The Gorge is coming out tomorrow, and he's in that, and that looks really good.
Exactly. So, yeah.
I mean, and
honestly, like the concept of that is very, very intriguing. I don't know if it's based on anything like a book, but like the trailer looked very intriguing. Also, he did mention that, look, the mark of a really bad flop can linger on somebody's career, their resume. It takes some people longer than others to like recover from that. So that's one of the reasons why he doesn't really wish that upon anybody, because obviously I'm sure he struggled with it himself after that previous Fantastic Four movie really flopped. So yeah, you know what? Good on Miles Teller. Wishing the best. to the next set of Fantastic Four actors, who, including Pedro Pascal, who he named in that interview. So, speaking of movies that are coming out soon, John, Mickey 17 is coming out so soon, and now we've got another new clip featuring Robert Pattinson, Toni Collette, and Mark Ruffalo for the movie that comes out on March 7th. Did you see this? What did you think about this?
Yeah, just Mark Ruffalo being an asshole. Like, I kind of like to see it. Like, Toni Collette's always great, but just Mark Ruffalo I've just been kind of iffy on, because it's just like, I only see him as the Hulk, who's like this big joke. Like, yes, he's done a lot, like Dark Water and Spotlight and all. He's done great stuff. It's just like I can only see him as this shitty version of the Hulk. So it's like, oh no, he can actually act, right? Duh. And so I think he's having a lot of fun with this. He's just so ridiculous, so over the top. And I think Toni Collette's definitely having a lot of fun with him. So yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, no, so. I agree with you completely. I think this movie, it's looking better and better the more we see from it. So I'm excited to see the movie itself now. Like, just give it to me. It's like a few weeks away. Like, just be here already. But hey, you know what? We keep on going with the quick hits. We got a few more to go here. Linda Cardellini, or I totally messed up her name. Linda Cardellini is reportedly in talks to star as Pamela Voorhees in A24's Friday the 13th series. Did you peg her as like Linda Cardellini as somebody who you would see in a Friday the 13th movie? Is this a
No.
good pick? Would you be interested in seeing this?
I mean, this is like TV shows like been like, oh, it's canceled, oh, it's coming back, oh, it's canceled, oh, it's coming back. So it's like, Pamela Voorhees. I mean, can she do it acting wise? Yes, but one of my favorite comments from this is like, why is this fine ass lady being Pamela Voorhees? And I'm like, look, don't get me wrong, hot people can be batshit insane too, but it's just like not like Betsy Palmer was like, you know, like typical mom shit. Like that's like just like, you know, she was just this little old like frumpy woman like who you don't expect. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I know she can do it, and I know she would do a great job. It's just like, if this is true, it's an interesting choice, but I think there are probably other better choices for this. But I'm not complaining. I'm still curious with this. So, like A24's Friday the 13th series, like that's a thing I didn't think I would ever fucking say. So I'm curious about it, especially with the amount of fucking legal shit that's gone on with this franchise because of Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller. So like, yeah, but I'm curious if this is true.
Yeah, look, it's gonna be interesting. A24, they're anytime they do anything, it's interesting, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Adding talent onto your project can only be a good thing, and Linda is certainly one of the better actors out there today. She's part of the MCU, right? Isn't Linda Cardellini like the Hawkeye's wife in the MCU? Yep. If I'm correct. So she had a couple of cameos in the first Hawkeye season. And we know they're working on another season, so maybe she'll have a bigger role. It's from the sounds of it, at least in that show, she's like a retired ex-SHIELD agent. So, I mean, and the fact that they cast her as opposed to just, you know, some random, like, I mean, not saying that you couldn't just cast anybody for the role, but I'm like, you know, maybe they have more in mind for her in the MCU. So good on her. She's got more opportunities coming her way. This is another piece of news that, you know, I came across while we have been live on the show, John. So For All Mankind, the spinoff Star City is now added 3 more people to its cast. Of course, this spinoff is, I think it's focused on like one of the moon bases, I think the Russian moon base, if I remember correctly. The show was originally announced in April 2024. It will tell the story of the alternate history of the space lake like For All Mankind, but this time it's telling the story from the Soviet perspective. So Star City, of course, is, you know, the Soviet version. Oh,
I thought it was going to be about Green Arrow. I got excited for
okay. But like Solly McLeod, Agnes O'Casey, and Alice Englert have now joined
Solly McLeod.
Okay, is that a Scottish name? I'm totally butchering.
Yes. Well, McLeod was like the Highlander. That's what
I see.
I think that was an MAC, so I think that's McLeod rather than MacLeod. So
right,
you know.
Well, I mean, more talent added to the cast. I'm excited to see it. Star City was a big part of the latest season of For All Mankind, so I want to see more of it, and hopefully we'll get that now that, you know, they're continuing to cast for the show, which continues to run. The original show still got a few more seasons in it. Now, this, of course, is the second last quicket of the day. Takashi Yamazaki has now confirmed that he's writing and storyboarding his next Godzilla film. Of course, Godzilla Minus One is still winning awards, but he's already working on the next one. Are you excited for this? Where do you think they're going to go next?
Fuck yeah, I am. Let's go. Let's just make Kino Cinema for less than $50 million. Let's fucking go. Showing all these dumbass Hollywood elites that you don't need to spend $400 million on a movie that looks like shit to just think it'll turn a profit. Sometimes you just need to make a good movie. And you know what? Yeah. They fucking did. And Yamazaki continues to be fucking based as fuck, and I can't wait for Godzilla Minus 2 or whatever the fuck it's gonna be called. I don't know if they're actually gonna make it like a sequel to Minus One, or if it's just gonna be like he's talked about a bunch of different ideas, but but whatever he does do, I'm stoked for it. It's gonna just be.
Yep. I mean, Enterprising has been waiting.
$10 million. Because Yamazaki himself said 15 million. I wish we had 15 million. No, it was more like 10 million.
That is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, and it
God,
won
I mean-
Best Visual Effects,
Yeah.
beating all the Marvel movies that cost $200 million that year.
Figure drawing saying
Almost
that
like
after the
quality
reshoots
control.
it cost 15
It's
million.
almost like just caring about the fucking movie will make you a good movie.
Crazy. I know.
Well, figure drawing John, I'm sure will look it up and see if it did cost 15 million after the reshoots. I don't know if they would have spent an extra like 50% of the budget on just reshoots. That seems extensive.
I'm saying the reason I said 50 because it just like that's like a reasonable amount, but like Godzilla minus one was even less than that. Like, because a cheap movie in Hollywood is like considered like 50 million.
Right.
And that, but or like, I mean, Abigail, that was a horror movie that took place in one location that cost $30 million because that's all the money it made at the box office. So you would think that no, it's even less than that. Like this big grandiose epic that won an Oscar. No, that was 10 million. So
I don't even. Was it in contention for the VES awards this year, or was that last year?
no,
I
it was,
think,
well,
it
it was
won-
a 2023 film, so it was only
Yeah, I mean, God, like I'm glad that he's working on the next one, and Enterprising is a huge fan, and Caleb, loved it as well. So, figure drawing looked it up. Apparently, it's 15 million. Well, we'll figure that out another time. Let's keep the ball rolling here. We've got one more quick hit to get into. Of course, the Super Bowl happened recently. We've talked about it multiple times on the show, but we now know that it scored a record $800 million plus in ad sales for Fox Corporation and Tubi. Of course, Fox is a network that the Super Bowl is broadcast on, and Tubi is owned by Fox, the larger company, and that's like where they were simulcasting it. Basically, it's their free, free ad-supported streaming service, so you don't have to actually pay anything. You just watch ads. So that's a huge number, John. Basically, when you look at I'll read out the paragraph here for comparison's sake. The 800 million plus figure is a significant jump from last year's Super Bowl on telecast on Fox, which in 2023 the company said they generated around $650 million, and it was tied to obviously not just the event itself but all the other programming around it. And the CBS the Super Bowl that took place in 2024, which was the last year's Super Bowl. So 2023 was when Fox last had it 2 years ago. That was 650. Last year, CBS did 695. Now that game went to overtime with the Chiefs and Niners. This game was like a blowout, and they still, the ad buys happened before the game happened, so it's not like the number was affected by the score in the game. But the fact that they went from like 695 to over 800 million, do you think that's got to do with like the cost of the ads going up significantly, or do you think like it's just the interest in the game is continuing to grow?
Cool, I guess. I just don't want to fucking hear about the Super Bowl anymore. There's a reason I haven't used Facebook in like almost a week because of this shit. So
damn. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? That is the end of the quickest, John. So you can clear out that music, and we're gonna move on to the next part of the show here. So, of course, before we do that, though, guys, let us know what you thought about all those stories. Which was your favorite story? Did you like the trailer for The Accountant? Are you going to be going to see it? Would you like to see Linda Cardellini in the A24 Friday the 13th movie? Of course, we also reviewed, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. We're going to be back reviewing it next week with the season finale, episodes 9 and 10. But of course, as always, guys, let us know down below in the comments. Hit the like button, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, if you're here 5 days a week, and hit the notification bell. We are not done yet, though, because we now have to get into what is the main event of the show. It always is, and that is, of course, DCU Daily. So welcome on in to another episode of DCU Daily. I am, of course, Daniel, and we have lots to get into today. As always, we got a Batista trying to get into the DCU. We got Robert Pattinson talking about the Batman 2, even Matt Reeves making some comments about it. We have to talk about the creator of Black Lightning and so much more beyond that. To do that with me and so much more, John, as always, how are you doing, and which of these stories excites you the most today?
I kind of like the Clayface stuff because like that's kind of a cool that's probably one of the things I'm most excited about, and I hope we get somebody good for that to match Mike Flanagan's vision.
Yep. Yeah. Figure drawing, by the way, saying A24 Friday the 13th. I hope it's dope. Yeah. And Man of Steel Magnolia in the chat. We've got Enterprising saying, yeah, okay. And Mark Ramos is ready for his DC news. And yes, Figure Drawing, we are going to talk about that breaking news that Deadline revealed within the past hour about Clayface. But what we're going to start off by talking about is basically the story that Dave Bautista has reached out on not one, not two, but several occasions to join James Gunn's DCU. He recently, was interviewed, and I pulled this from a Movie Web article. So this is the quote. He said, "I'd rather not just take a supporting role in a DC film that was kind of dropped in. I'd rather hold off and just be in a bigger role, something that would just make more of an impact in that universe." So essentially, he doesn't want to just do a little cameo. He wants to take on a role which is going to allow him to be a part of the universe for a long time to come, John. Are you surprised by this? Are you surprised at the fact that he's reached out multiple occasions with James Gunn? Maybe they just haven't quite found the right fit yet. One would have, for a lot of people, they're like, James Gunn is, falling over himself to bring, Dave Bautista into his universe, but maybe not so fast.
Maybe it's just like he doesn't know where to put him, and maybe I feel like people are taking it out of hand, because I feel like James Gunn is like, okay, I want to find a good role for this guy that I know is a good actor and who I've worked with. So he wants to find a good role for him and something, and maybe he's finding him good roles, but then he's like, no, I want something bigger, like something that would have me coming back multiple times. And James Gunn's like, okay, we'll try to work on that, because we only have so many movies in production right now. I don't think he's desperate. I just think because he still wants to be known as a better talent than just guy who was a wrestler who became an actor, because he's genuinely a good actor. It's just I feel like he's kind of stuck doing these crappy bargain bin movies, like the thing that this is from. It looks like I think it's Paul W.S. Anderson's newest movie, and it's that's kind of a shame, because it's he's done highbrow stuff, and then he does stuff like this, and it's just he's clearly more talented than this. And he wants to showcase that, even if it's in a big franchise like DC.
Yeah. And also if you look at this paragraph, he had more to say about it, a little more specific about, his love for the brand. Of course, he's not any stranger to blockbuster franchises. He's done the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So in addition to what we mentioned earlier, Batista also said, "I do love working with James Gunn, and I've been very vocal about wanting to work with him at DC. If they find a character that makes sense for me, then I'd be totally open to it." So it looks like, again, he's saying it's all green lights from my side. It's just a matter of, can we find the right fit? And yeah, he's a great actor, like you said, Marco. It's just hard to maybe see where he fits now, because I don't know if he's definitely not going to play Bane. I think James Gunn has said that he's probably not the best fit for that, especially considering that he's, slimmed down a lot, I think, due to health concerns. But Marco suggesting maybe he could be, Alfred Pennyworth. Maybe he could be Alfred. And yeah, he was in the Bond movies, Elite Easy. He's done a lot of different things. But I like Enterprise's suggestion. He's saying, I'm telling you, man, Vandal Savage.
I think Vandal Savage.
I'll be honest with you. We have talked about it. So Batista is actually at least partly Filipino. And you could find a way to make that work, right? So that it's not you're casting the wrong, you want to represent the right part of the world.
Vandal Savage, the whole basis of his character is that he's a proto-human. He literally, he was one of the first, I don't even think he's Homo sapien. I think he's the one before that, and he got knocked out, but he evolved. That was the whole thing. He got hit with a meteor, and then he evolved, and then all that stuff. So I don't think race really matters in that, unless it's oh, we need to find a guy who matches the race of an extinct species. So it's I don't think that's gonna work. So I think you're just gonna take with what you got. But having him an ethno kind of background. I could see Hugo Strange as well.
Yeah.
could work, but it's like at the same time, like because Vandal Savage is a very general villain, so I feel like Vandal Savage would be perfect, like because it takes a lot of good acting ability as that villain. He's a very intelligent villain. You have to showcase a guy who's been around for like thousands upon thousands of years.
Mhm.
And then, but Hugo Strange, like, or that, yeah,
So you're
exactly.
going. I don't think James Gunn is ghosting him, but I see.
Um,
I'm in. I'm in for the fun.
Meanwhile, Hugo Strange is like very specific. He's a Batman villain.
Yeah.
Vandal Savage is very general. Like he could be a very big villain for like He could be a Justice League villain. He could be a Justice Society villain. He can be like a Hawkman villain. He can be, he could be a whole bunch of different villains for like different characters. So any of those can work, and I think that would be really stellar. And I think that would fit, and he doesn't need to be a big hulking mass like
Right.
Dave Bautista was.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, we'll see. It seems like James Gunn wants to bring him in, but Dave Bautista wants to be a part of the universe. They just have to kind of find the right fit, and I hope that they do, because I would love to see Dave Bautista join the DCU. Now, of course, one of the show we were talking about the Arrowverse earlier. I think we were talking about Cynthia Adai Robinson. She was a part of the Arrowverse because she played the Amanda Waller of that universe. Of course, part of that universe was also Black Lightning, a groundbreaking character in DC in many ways, and even the TV show was one of the best that that we got from the entire Arrowverse. Now, recently, Black Lightning creator Jenny Blake Isabella came out as trans, age 73. I mean, I don't think it's ever too late to, basically tell the world who you are and just embrace who you are. So on February 9th, Isabella shared the news on social media with the meme reading, "Keep calm and yes, I'm transgender." 2 days later, she confirmed her gender identity in a blog post saying, "I was overwhelmed by the love and support from my fans. Some comments brought me to joyful tears." Of course, the Black Lightning character broke a lot of ground for DC, and then the TV show did so too. I believe it featured like the first lesbian superhero character in DC, of course, on screen.
One of the like the first. He okay. I will say Black Lightning isn't the first like Black DC character, but it's the most popular one. He was like the biggest one who is still relevant to this day. That Isabella started, and I'm glad she managed to find despite it being so late in her life. I'm glad she can live however long she has left in happiness, being who she really is.
Yeah, I absolutely. Anytime you see this kind of news, it just warms your heart. It makes you smile, and I was really happy to see this. This one, I will give a shout out to Fiona for bringing this story to us. Now, the next story that I want to get into is something that was all over social media today. So let's talk about it, shall we? The Waller TV show, it's still in development. They're working on the scripts. They're not quite done yet, but the rumor is that they're about to start casting soon, and it's coming from your favorite insider, the insider, Jeff Snyder, saying that King Faraday is supposedly, going to be a part of the show, part of the Waller show. Of course, if you're not familiar with the character, King Faraday in the comics is considered as one of the top spies in the DC universe, and he has worked with the Suicide Squad, Checkmate, and the CIA before. What are your thoughts on this? Do you believe this? Do you like the idea? And do you have anybody in mind who could potentially play King Faraday?
I think King Faraday is an interesting choice to add, but he's a pretty good character. I don't know why, but the first person I thought of was Peter Gallagher. I don't know why. I just think that would be a good maybe he's voiced the character. I don't know, but I thought of King Faraday, and then the first name that came to mind was Peter Gallagher, who was in American Beauty. So yeah, he's been he was voiced by Frank Grillo in the Tomorrowverse, so that's something. Yeah, so I think that could be cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if how much more of the DC universe we get to see in this show. Steven Ortega, by the way, asking a good question. Do you think we can potentially get 2 TV shows out next year? Just was it yesterday or 2 days ago, we were talking about the idea that we might get a second TV show coming out next year. Was it Waller that we were talking about potentially, if it goes into production this year, that it comes out
I think
next
that's
year?
what it was. Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's so considering that if they're getting into the casting process, you'd imagine they're getting close to filming it, right? So, yeah, I mean, Steven, if that happens, then maybe Waller is that second TV show alongside Lanterns that comes out in 2026. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, again, like Ron's saying, though, it's about the quality. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, let us know, guys, in the chat. Like, let us know what you think about this. Do you believe the rumor? I mean, John, this is coming from the Insnider.
Yeah.
It is Jeff Snyder saying it, and he's not been entirely spot on of late.
Yeah. Probably bullshit,
Grain
but
of salt.
like, it's such a weird character, and James Gunn we're used to him bringing in weirder, smaller characters, and it fits with like
Mhm.
Checkmate, and if that's gonna follow, Argus and all that. So it's just interesting.
Yeah.
I probably not happening, but broken clock right twice a day, and this seems like more realistic than some of the other
It's
stuff
not
he's
some big
claimed.
claim
So
that's out there, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Enterprising saying grain of salt for now. We agree with you
yeah.
there. But you know what? It's not grain of salt. They say the Snyderverse is dead, but just last December, there were new toys for Zack Snyder Justice League that came out. And now, Warner Brothers is collaborating with Super Times Apparel to drop a new collection of activewear that you can get that is basically Batman v
Cool.
Superman themed.
Interesting.
So it's coming out on the 25th of this month. So later this month in February, it's gonna tie back into the BVS movie. It seems like, despite the fact that they've moved on, obviously, in the movie world and TV world from Batman versus Superman and the DCEU, Warner Brothers is still taking advantage of the fandom that's out there because they want to sell you some merchandise, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will
I mean,
go and
yeah,
get themselves some.
they still sell merchandise for like the Christopher Reeve movie, the Michael Keaton Batman movie. Like they still sell a lot of stuff that is attributed to certain movies, so it's not totally out of nowhere to make some merch. I mean, you could go on DC's website right now and get a Christopher Reeve looking crest, even though that was the classic crest for a long time. That
Right.
was that was mostly attributed to Chris Reeve, and you can get like a Christopher Reeve like Hot Toys sculpture. So
Yep.
that makes sense to me.
I love how this story has turned Ron into Caleb with the sarcasm. James Gunn is canceled. Ben Affleck is back. Henry Cavill is back. Anything to hold on to their delusion, says Enterprising. I love it. I love it. I mean, look, you know what? You can still love the movie. I love the movie. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on some of this merchandise. That doesn't mean I'm thinking that all of a sudden the DCEU is making a comeback. But you know what is potentially making a comeback? That is Clayface, who was killed off in the first season of Creature Commandos, but supposedly not quite dead yet, because we are getting, of course, as we know, Clayface movies. So either that's the same Clayface or it's a different Clayface, and we have multiple versions of the character in the DCU. But now there's news out there that James Watkins and Jeff Wadlow are the front runners to direct this DC Studios production. What are your
I'll
thoughts?
take James Watkins. Jesus fucking Christ. I will take James Watkins because at least he's directed some decent stuff in the past. Like, really, out of all the dumb fucks you could get the guy who did Truth or Dare, Fantasy Island, and Imaginary, some of the most dog shit fucking horror movies you could possibly imagine. You have a script by one of the greatest horror director writers working today, and you're like, yeah, let's get the guy who just did that shitty teddy bear movie that nobody fucking saw and everybody hated. Yeah, that fucking makes sense. Warner Brothers still being the kings of terrible decisions to the shock of no one. But if these two dumb fucks are the top ones, I'll take James Watkins. Yeah, I didn't like Speak No Evil, but like a lot of people did, so I'll fucking take that over this dumbass. Jesus Christ, how fucking stupid can you fucking be?
Well,
Like, come on.
to answer Ron's question, let's just go over what they say in the Deadline article. It's an exclusive from Deadline. So they said one of the prime opening directing assignments right now in Hollywood is the DC Clayface movie, which is rearing and ready to go with a screenplay by Mike Flanagan, which we know is complete and ready. It's been greenlit, and it's targeting a theatrical release date of September 11th of 2026. Now, Deadline is hearing that the DC brass will be hearing pitches from potential filmmakers next week, with some of the key candidates being Truth or Dare's Jeff Wadlow and Speak No Evil's James Watkins. So at the same time, there's buzz out there that the casting process has already begun. Once a filmmaker is attached, DC and that said director will mull on the actors being assessed, basically go through and pick out the cast members. Now, whoever is chosen as a director will weigh in on the casting choices. So they won't pick their leads and their supporting cast members until the director is chosen. But at least if you go off of what they say in the article, these guys aren't just like being picked from a list. They're pitching their version of the movie, or, you know, based on the script that's already written. So yeah, I mean, Enterprising saying Watkins would be preferred for now. Caleb asking, what movie did Jeff Wadlow make? John, care to enlighten Caleb?
He made Fantasy Island, which was apparently terrible. Imaginary, which was apparently terrible. Truth or Dare, which was apparently terrible, and the shitty Kick-Ass sequel that nobody liked. All
That's
fucking
what
terrible.
Elise was saying. He did Kick-Ass too. Yeah.
Jennifer Kent, she directed something get fucking Andre Overdahl. He's not fucking doing anything, and he's not that expensive, and he's a way fucking better director. I understand you don't want to get a big guy. You don't want Robert Eggers. Come on, let's do this. Obviously you're not going to be getting that, and Mike Flanagan's too fucking busy. Osgood Perkins is off doing press for The Monkey. So, you know, I mean, he'd probably be a better fucking director than either of these two fucks. So, and that's saying a lot. I'm honestly surprised he has not directed anything yet, considering how much of a massive fucking ego that man has. But yeah, I just, like, out of all the horror directors that, like, you could grab that have done a lot of, like, good TV, like, really? Like, at least James Watkins, I'm the outlier. I personally didn't care for Speak No Evil, but a lot of other people did. I made the mistake of watching the original movie, and it's a very bleak movie, and I prefer bleak movies over, you know, Americanized stuff. But even then, I could recognize that there's some talent there. And he also directed Eden Lake, even though that's not my thing, very kind of torture porny, but at least it's a good movie. And I know he's directed a couple other good movies, so I'll, like, take that. But it's like, yeah, let's get the dipshit who fucking did Imagine. Did anybody like that movie? Like, guys, come on. David Lowery, I think it was. He also directed A Ghost Story with Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara. I've heard that was really good. He also did Pete's Dragon, I think. But yeah, anybody like that, like, goddamn. Fuck, like, how are you? No, I'm just saying.
I don't have a dog.
No, I'm not saying Eden Lake is a bad movie. Yeah. It's just not for me. I watched, like, bits and pieces. It's just, like, it's not my kind of horror. Like, it's one of those movies that I think here's the thing. I got the ending spoiled for me, and I just don't like that kind of, like I like bleak shit, don't get me wrong, but I think that's a bit much even for me. So that's why I'm like, I'm not saying Eden Lake's a bad movie. It's just, like, a bit much for me personally. Yeah. But if you like it, and I've heard great things about it, and I like Michael Fassbender, I like the main actress whose name I'm unfortunately forgetting, both great actors, and, you know, very great premise and all that. It's just a lot. It's a lot for me, and that's saying a guy who's desensitized to a lot of horror. Maybe I'll finally, you know, give it a chance and watch it, but it's just a bit much. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? And then while they're at it, might as well cast Vin Diesel, like Ron said. Could be the worst casting choice, but I would still love it, because then the movie would be essentially, you know, all about family.
You don't turn your back on family.
And on that note, we shall move on to what is our main story of the day. Of course, is the one that is on the thumbnail, and we have to talk about The Batman 2, because Robert Pattinson was talking about it, and Matt Reeves were talking about it. So, of course, we know it's award season, and Robert Pattinson, you know, has been out there, you know, promoting his upcoming movie that's going to garner a lot of awards buzz. But, you know, he's also just, you know, attending, you know, various different red carpets. So he was at one of the red carpet events recently for Mickey 17, and Deadline got a hold of him and asked him a couple of questions, and then he also talked to Variety about it. So let's get into that a little bit here, John, because we have a bit of an update as to when the Batman 2 is going to start filming. According to Robert Pattinson, they're going to start filming the movie at the end of the year. The story is very cool and it's very exciting, according to him. Let me kind of read out a little bit more of what he had to say about it. So here's the quote. Of course, he didn't reveal any of the plot details. This is on the red carpet from Mickey 17, which we discussed earlier, of course. But this is what he had to say. He was, at the red carpet in Leicester Square, and he said, I think at the end of the year, with a bit of a question mark next to it. And then he said, I know what it's about, but I can't tell anyone. But it's very cool. It's very exciting. So clearly he's excited by the prospect of what the story is going to provide. And then Deadline also interviewed him, and The Hollywood Reporter interviewed him. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, he's saying it's been taking a while, but we're finally going to start filming it later this year.
Hopeful. I mean, that doesn't mean anything totally official. That's just like, oh yeah, we hope this happens. Could be like, oh yeah, we hope to start filming, but we might not start filming until 2026. So, I mean, the way that the timeline is, it would make sense that it's sometime this year, because like at least late this year, because with how long that the original took, but even though that had COVID restrictions. But yeah, I feel like that works in terms of the timeline. I feel like, yeah, makes sense with pre-production, production, and post-production. But yeah, I think works, and let's hope, because of this, Matt Reeves has actually finished the script. We haven't gotten an update on that. So, but Andy Serkis says he knows the story. Robert Pattinson says he knows the story, and they hope to start filming later this year. So I hope that like maybe Matt Reeves has a finished script, or at least close to one, and that they start that. So yeah.
I mean, I'm excited about it. I can't wait for this movie, despite the fact that I've been really, really hard on Matt Reeves about it. What do you guys think about it in the chat? Do you guys think that when they say the end of this year, like how close to the end of the year are they actually talking about here, John? Do you think this is going to be basically December of this year? Are we talking, something that's maybe like the third quarter of 2020? Like how I want to know when they're going to go into production, right? Because after Superman, there's nothing else from DC coming out this year. Obviously, there's a lot of things in production, but I'm wondering like what the exact timeline might be. What are your thoughts on that?
It's like a whole thing. It's just like, it's just hard to get behind this, because it's like, it just feels like it's just been a delay after a delay after a delay, and it's just like, if there's another one, then it's like, oh, another one, and I don't know. It's just like a whole complicated kind of kitten caboodle. I don't know. It's just like, it's just hard to talk
I don't
about.
know if Catwoman is a part of this movie, but I appreciate the pun.
Yeah, not intentional, but it's just like a whole thing. I just want it to be good. Like Penguin was good, got me some faith back into this franchise, and yeah. But that's just the basic thing. I hope it's good.
I mean, Ron, November might be a good time. It makes sense. The movie's set to take place in the wintertime in Gotham, so
yeah, it might have to be a year later after the Penguin because of how much they've delayed it. So
yeah. But you know what? That's not the only story from the Batman that we have to talk about today, because of course Matt Reeves was also recently talking about this. So he just said that the Batman sequel will be very VFX heavy, which according to, of course, the person who posted this on Threads, makes him believe that maybe, just maybe, we're getting Mr. Freeze as the villain in the Batman Part 2. It's just a hunch. Of course, this part, the part that Matt Reeves had to say about the being VFX heavy, is from a Deadline report that we were talking about earlier. To me, this is the thing. The first movie was very VFX heavy. We just didn't see.
We just weren't aware of it.
Yeah, because they were doing it so seamlessly, but a lot of things were done on set stage on sound stages. Like the part where there were parts of the sequence with the penguin, the scene with the car chase where they had him inside the car, but the car was on like this volume set where the car was moving and doing all the flipping and all that stuff, and they were getting the shots with Colin Farrell, but they weren't actually shooting it on a road. Like obviously, then they shot the car flipping on a street
Yeah,
on
fucking
the
crazy.
highway, which was it was crazy. But in the moment when they were filming it with like the shots of Colin Farrell, that was in a soundstage. So obviously, they did a lot of stuff that wasn't done in camera. That to like piece all of it together. So yeah, I mean, to me, the VFX heavy nature of the sequel doesn't necessarily imply we're getting Mr. Freeze. But let's say we were, John. How do you
Mm.
even think that ties into like the first movie? Because we have talked about how the first movie, like I mean, Matt Reeves has talked about how the first movie is essentially has all the answers that we need for where the second movie is going to go. So, do you think there's anything in the first movie that indicates that Mr. Freeze might be the villain and potentially even exists in this version of Gotham?
I don't know. It's just like it's one of the less obvious ones in terms of like a continuation. Like as you were saying, like going from one movie to the next, it's not an obvious one, which maybe what Matt Reeves wants, like not to do something obvious. But it's just how is he gonna do it? Because like I understand, like, but if we're talking about the setting, oh, winter, Mr. Freeze, of course. But like that, but then that part's obvious. So Matt Reeves, I feel like he wants to like be like ahead of the audience, maybe not give something too obviously, because like a lot of people have said, oh, got to do Court of Owls, you got to do Hush, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I feel like maybe he wants to not one up the audience because I hate it when fucking directors try to do that. Ryan Johnson. So I think he just wants to like give us something we won't expect, but in like a good way. And VFX heavy, I don't know if that automatically means Mr. Freeze because I feel like Mr. Freeze is a pretty practical villain. Like he's just gotta like. I mean,
Chill.
Arnold
Oh,
Schwarzenegger was
like
painted, but to be
he
fair,
was
they don't really use
exactly.
body paint that much anymore. It's mainly motion capture.
Mhm.
So, like, because I mean, that's what it was for like Beast Boy and Starfire and Titans,
Right.
because it's like cheaper that way, and you're also don't have to deal with allergies, and you're not in a makeup chair for hours. So there's that. But I can't imagine that they would waste that, and I feel like Matt Reeves is still like for the most part a practical filmmaker because he was filming on location. Yes, there were a lot of VFX shots and AR walls, but I feel like he's still for the most part practical, and I feel like he would get like a practical Mr. Freeze with like a practical suit. So I don't know. I don't think that means Mr. Freeze, but I think I don't. But I also don't think we're getting like a super heavy like Clayface as the villain. Obviously not, because we're getting that side story in the DCU. So I don't know. I just feel like that doesn't automatically mean that, and I still don't know what villain we're gonna get. There's a lot of potential great ones, so I just say whatever Matt Reeves has in mind. I'm sure it's the right one.
Yeah, I think Hush was. We had a rumor that Hush might be the one because Kit Harington potentially could be getting cast for the role. We have thought about maybe Court of Owls. We know the Penguin is going to be in there, but he's not the big villain. Um, He'll like subvert my expectations. Reeves and then Enterprising saying Reeves talked about a grounded way of exploring freeze, like weaponized liquid nitrogen, which he has mentioned that there's ways to do it. Um, so we're still talking about Batman bat credit cards, Ron. Come on now. I think we are past that. Hopefully, at least in the Batman universe, maybe not in the DCU. Elite Easy saying I've never seen a good live action Mr. Freeze. And then Elite Easy also saying the last three Warner games were terrible. Marvel is eating right now in the video game industry. Well, DC's trying to get back to it with the new Batman game, so you've got that. But Enterprising making a very good point. Hush makes the most sense considering what was set up. And I think when you look at where Gotham was at the end of that movie, and if they're still going to go with like, the second movie picks up right where the first movie, right where the Penguin, I should say, left off, then you're still only weeks, if not maybe just a few months, away from the events of what the Riddler did with flooding the city. So Hush would make sense. I think Court of Owls would make sense if you want to like slowly tease them out. Maybe they're in the background. They're not
Maybe
the big villain of the movie.
Maybe they can
So
do like instead of the obvious Court of Owls arc, they can do another arc that's kind of similar.
Mhm.
Maybe without like the dramatic like cutting off Gotham, but maybe like No Man's Land could be like an influence. I don't know. Obviously without like Batman Zur-En-Arrh and the introduction of Cassandra Cain and all that. But well, I don't know if she was introduced there. I think
The
she became
Iceman Comet.
Batgirl.
Oh man,
I
I
forget
can't
which one it
wait.
was, but No Man's Land could be a good influence on it because that's definitely like a dark, grittier story, and it's a lot to pull from. It's a big story. I own it. Still have not
What
read
killed
it,
the
but it's on my shelf
dinosaurs?
right
Oh
now.
man, yeah. Yep. The puns in that Batman Robin movie are amazing. To this day, guilty pleasure. I will forever defend that movie. It's so bad, it's so good. I will love that movie, even though it is terrible. I will love that movie. Batman and Robin, Mr. Freeze, Arnold Schwarzenegger, clearly the best Mr. Freeze. You could bring him back. Like, let him play an older version of Mr. Freeze. I'm down. Um, but yeah, the Iceman cometh. The Ice Age. Yes, there you go. Everybody in the chat answering the question. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Surprise, I'm your new cellmate. That's how the movie ended. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait to if yeah, you know what? It'd be so crazy. But hey, James Gunn did bring back George Clooney's Batman. So can he not bring back Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze? It's not too far fetched. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing it. But hey, look, we know, according to Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves decided before, the goal is to start filming later this year, and we know that even Andy Serkis, who knows the story, as does Robert Pattinson, they all are saying the same thing. That this movie is going to start filming toward the end of 2025, and they have a release date in October 2027, which still feels like is way too far away. But they do still have like that that untitled movie that could come out either earlier in 2027. I think it's spring of 2027 or fall of 2026. I don't think fall of 2026 is realistic, but maybe, just maybe, they can move it up to this, March of 2027, which is currently an untitled placeholder for a DC film, and it would line up with where the first movie came out. It came out in March of 2022.
22.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense because obviously the first movie made a ton of money. It made almost $800 million. So releasing it in March is clearly not a problem. And historically speaking, a lot of Batman movies come out like in the spring, summer months, not necessarily in the fall. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. Man of Steel Magnolia is saying you can see the Royal Flush Gang. That could be interesting. It could be interesting. An enterprising suggesting, or they go for a Dark Victory inspired story minus Robin, explore Two-Face again as the full main villain, not a side character. I mean, I think we've gotten a lot of Harvey Dent recently, so even in Joker Folia Do, maybe they should go in a different direction. Elite Easy saying Clooney needs another redo. Okay, that's starts out.
He would never. He would. He even said he's like, I'd rather do. There's not
Yeah.
enough drugs in the entire world that would get me to play Batman again. So I don't think that would ever happen.
I mean, the Royal Flush were on the CW, so you're right, Elite Easy. They were one of the villains of the week. But yeah, I mean, maybe they'll come up at some point in the DCU. I just don't know if they're going to be in the Batman universe. But hey, you know what? It's going to be a VFX-heavy sequel. Does that tell you anything about who the villain might be, guys? Let us know in the comments who you think will be the villain of the Batman 2. But with that, John, I believe we have come to the conclusion of the show today. DCU Daily and all the news. We reviewed Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man earlier. We've been talking about, of course, things like the new Fantastic Four trailer, what Miles Teller had to say about it. But Dave Bautista, he's reached out to James Gunn multiple times, and they've yet to kind of figure out like what character fits him best. So he's gonna have to keep on waiting for his debut in the DCU. And of course, Robert Pattinson, Mickey 17 comes out soon, and he's already in the gym working out for the Batman Part 2. So we're looking forward to it. But we're also looking forward to being back here tomorrow with another episode of DCU Daily. John, are you excited for what's to come? Maybe we'll do a fan casting. Maybe it'll be another busy news day.
Yeah,
like
maybe
John is
fan
saying,
casting better fucking directors for Clayface than the dumbasses that WB wants to use. Like,
you know what? Let's
fucking
do that.
Stupid.
Let's do that, John. You put
Didn't we
together a
already
list.
do that though? Didn't we already?
We did, but you know what? In light light of the current news of what's going on right now, we're gonna redo it. We're gonna do it again. Elite Easy, I do love it when they start fighting over Poison Ivy. It becomes like a teenage rom-com in the middle of the Batman and Robin. It's fantastic. But anyway, thanks for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll try to maybe do a Clayface director fan casting. If you guys have any ideas, drop them in the comments below, and maybe we'll bring those into the conversation as well. But of course, as always, we'll have the latest from the world of DC and the world of Hollywood. What's going on out there, Marvel, DC, elsewhere. I think we haven't done MCU Weekly this week, even though we have had a lot of MCU news anyway. So we'll see what we can do there. But it's going to be a Friday stream the day before the weekend begins. Captain America 4 is out. I think some of you guys are going to see it tomorrow, so let us know what you think about it when you come back. But until then, go out there, watch something DC related, come back and talk to us about it. We'll be back here with you tomorrow with another episode of DCU Daily.